Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I am here today at CZ in the Czech Republic at Uherský Brod by generous invitation of the CZ factory to take a look at some of the interesting and unusual firearms that they have in their factory reference collection. And today we have what looks like a very standard, very common CZ or vz.80 pistol. However, this is actually a prototype for what would have been the vz.80, but never actually went into production. So the vz.80 was essentially the standard Czechoslovak at the time police pistol. Compact, it's essentially the same style as a Walther PP or PPK. In fact, we have one right here. Simple little compact pistol, 7.65 Browning, 32 caliber. And about 1975, the CZ factory started a program to look into a slightly more compact one. Essentially, this is the PPK version of the vz.80, and it would have been called the vz.80 had it gone into production, which it didn't. But they made more changes to it than just making it a little bit smaller. So let's take a closer look. At first glance, this really doesn't look like anything particularly unusual, but it is a little bit smaller than the standard vz.80, which we have here for comparison. So the grip frame is exactly the same, and they use the same magazines. These are actually both vz.50 magazines, but the 50 and the 70 have the exact same magazine. Essentially, the 70 is just a 50 with a bit of a facelift. The vz.80 has a 96 millimeter barrel, and our vz.80 prototype is about a centimeter shorter. So somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 inch less barrel length. Really not very much, but they did experiment with that as a development. Now, the other places where this has changed are primarily the disassembly. So disassembly on a standard vz.80 is this lateral spring-loaded block. You push this lever in, button in, and then you can lift the slide up and off the top. On the what would have been the vz.80, we instead have a dropping block here. Pull that down, and then after we pull the magazine out, we can pull the slide back, up, and off. So there's your standard vz.80 disassembly, and on the prototype here, we have instead this locking block. Of course, the barrels are shorter, and there are a few other internal changes as well. So on the 70, our slide stop or slide lock, this lifts up, the magazine pushes this up to lock the slide open when the gun's empty. This is pinned here with a little coil spring under there to give it some motion. On the prototype here, it is instead pinned up here with a little wire spring there. So it functions exactly the same, but the part is attached a little differently, and it's actually manufactured a little bit differently as well. It appears this was a stamped part on the 70, and it's a milled part on our prototype here. And we also have a slight change in the safety lever. So this still has all the same safety functions, safe, fire, and decock, but the lever is a bit more of a flat paddle than it was on the vz.80 here on the left. Interestingly, the markings on this prototype are actually vz.50, caliber 7.65, which is unusual, and then no markings on the other side of the slide. There are no proof marks on the frame. That's the screw that holds this locking block in place. There normally would be a proof mark here, which there isn't. In fact, the only other marking we have is a 4-digit serial number right there, 3250, which doesn't make a lot of sense. That's clearly a hand-stamped number, and not sure exactly what that means, because they definitely didn't make 3,000 of these. And that's it for differences. Here inside our prototype slide, we have exactly the same features, the same machining, the same design that you would find in a standard vz.80. So extractor over here, firing pin block, and so on. There's no existing documentation that we're aware of to explain exactly why this change in disassembly method was done, but I will tell you, it does actually make it easier to assemble and disassemble the pistol, because on the original guns, you actually have to hold this button down, and with this dropping block, it stays, once you pull it down, it stays down, and then you can just take the slide on or off as you need before putting it back in place. It's not clear to me exactly how many of these were manufactured, certainly not the 3,000 that the serial number on this pistol would suggest. Probably just a handful of them. They certainly don't exist outside of places like CZ's own archive, because they were, of course, the ones doing this development. So very cool of them to give me the opportunity to take a look at this pistol for you. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you do enjoy this sort of thing, check out the description text below. I have links to all of CZ's social media pages where they display not just current production interesting firearms, but also historical items like this. Thanks for watching.